I'm going to do it like how the Vedas or the gurus would tell a story, which is a story within a story within a story. And from that, you will see how life is like a jigsaw puzzle. And if you don't pay attention to the little teeny weeny pieces, the picture does not become full. I hope that makes sense. Okay, let's begin. I was born in a suppressive culture. A culture that has no room for thinking outside its parameters. And if you dare to think outside the parameters, they would deem you an outcast. And it is such a violent and oppressive parameters that you are born into that they would even go as far as murder in order to safeguard these parameters. Now, whether these parameters have a foundation in truth or not is besides the point. The point that you have to force human beings in order to adhere to these parameters, whether it's for their ultimate truth or against their ultimate truth, is what I find wrong with it. This is where I was born. And so, to go into a whole other culture and belief system, to explore that, because you have been ingrained, your brain, your every cell inside your body has been ingrained to refuse to listen or even open your mind to anything else outside the parameters of what you're born into. So therefore, if it's another culture, another way of life, another way of thinking, automatically your brain has been trained to go, nope, not listening. Nope, this is not true. Nope, immediately. I was, however, fortunate to have one of the most amazing human beings as my father. Blessed. I am blessed to have had a man like him as my father, who, even though tried to do that culture thing, and restrict us within the parameters, he also taught us how to speak our truth and stand up for our truth. So when the time came and he realized he kind of fucked up because he taught us to stand up for what we believe and what is true. And of course, when the time came, especially for me, and I turned around and I said, how do you want me to stand by a culture that does this and this and this, which is wrong? And you've taught me to stand up and speak my truth. And if I see something wrong, I have to be the pillar of righteousness and truth. How? How do you want me to be honest with myself when we are living within the parameters of dishonesty and hypocrisy? I didn't understand why my father did that, why my father tried to impose these cultural restrictions until I became a mother. Because we belong to a certain society. We are born within a certain caste, a certain system. And he was afraid that, oh God, give me a second. And he was afraid that if we do not abide by the cultural rules and regulations, we would become outcasts. And as outcasts, we would never be happy and fulfilled. We would never belong anywhere. For some strange reason, he never took into account that we were raised in the West, and that in the West, it breeds individuals, individual rights, individual way of thinking, which is the complete opposite of where we came from. Why am I telling you all of this? Because even though, like I said, my first formative years until 10, this is how I understood how I was always a very highly aware child. And so highly observant of my social status, my environment, the people that surround me, how they behave, their motivations. It wasn't until much, much later that I realized that the reason I'm like this is because I was a past life Kriya practitioner, and I carried forth into this life wisdom and light that I had worked on from previous lives. I didn't know any of this, you know. I only understood this when I came and I came across the path, which brought me here. Anyway, so the first 10 years, the culture was ingrained inside every cell of my body. And then the following 10 years, I was trying to, rip it off me, because I was trying to find my own truth and speak my own truth and walk my own truth. So it was a very hard journey. My whole life has been one war after another, but I don't give up until I win the war, and I always win the war. Obviously I'm here, so I won. Long story short, in those other 10 years, where I was trying to take off the culture, I did not have the ability or the knowledge or any guides that would show me the right path, like the techniques that I need, the wisdom that I needed in order to find that truth, in order to stand up for my truth. And let's not forget, I'm riddled with childhood trauma at this point as well, because of a suppressive culture, which I had to go to war in order to gain my freedom. And let's not get into all the other fucking stories that goes along with that. It's insane. So let's just focus on the here and now. There's too many stories. There are too many stories. I suppose that's what makes me good at being able to tell them. Anyway, so let's go back to this one. I didn't have it. I had to find my own way. I inherently was able to meditate. I didn't know that this was called meditation. I thought it was my mom who taught it to me, but no. I spent every night about an hour to 2 hours contemplating who I am, what I am, why am I here, where am I going, why is my life like this? Asking the questions, which then the universal consciousness led me to the right opportunities, situations, people, in order to open the doorways where I would walk through. And slowly but surely, come to terms with what I'm looking at, of wisdom, of knowledge, of experience. Do not forget, this is very important, why I said it at the beginning, that I have been ingrained with a certain belief system and way of thinking. I did not even understand that it was still playing on me until much later, when it became apparent, because my Guruji brought it out in me and made me aware of it. Because until that point, I didn't know. I thought I was completely free of it, but I didn't know it was still influencing and affecting my decisions, my perception, my way of speaking to people, my way of receiving and accepting and dissecting information. I had no idea that it was still this looming dark cloud of misinformation that was over my head, and basically dominating whatever ideas or thoughts or decisions I was making in my daily life. I didn't know, especially in my relationships, and I'm talking about across the board. It had some merits because my father also ingrained in us, based on that culture, very strong morals and principles. There were parameters which I would never try transgress. I would never try to go above that line. There's the line. My dad drew that line and said, if you go over that line, this is what's going to happen. This is who you are. Da 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 da. Even though, okay, it went to an extreme, but I understood the meaning of that line. I understood why that line was there to begin with, right? That line is there to make me understand what is right from wrong. That line was there to make me know the direction, even whatever direction I want to take in life. There is a line right here. Don't cross that, because if you cross that, you will go down a road, a dark abyss that perhaps it would be impossible for you to come out of. So when I see that line, I'm like, no, I'm not going down that way. I'm going to continue over here. Oh, if I cross the line without knowing, because sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes you cross the line without even knowing. And then because you didn't do it on purpose, you didn't know that you crossed the line. Like something, I feel like a hand from heaven just comes and goes, yeah, you need to go over there. just goes, no, not this way. That happened 2 or 3 times. In fact, if I tell you some of the stories, you're like, what? I'm like, yeah. Because I walked into a situation unknowingly, and that situation would be crossing the line. I'm like behind the line, and I'm like, what am I doing here? This is not where I'm meant to be. Something happens, whether it's a person walks in or something happens, and suddenly I'm taking out a situation and put back to where I belong because I walked into something without realizing. But when that happens, the universe also kind of gives me a slap in the face, like, could you be more aware? Because next time it might be, you know, it might be dangerous. It might be something that could, you know, be so bad that you can't get out of. So it wasn't until I found my yoga path that I realized what I've been missing all my life. And even though inherently I knew how to meditate and I was doing it, because of this ingrained, suppressive misinformation within my culture that I was born into, I wasn't able to open myself up to other cultures, specifically the one that gave birth to all other ones, the one that gave birth to all civilization. That particular one has been undermined, disrespected, and made to look like, in the eyes of all other cultures, as, I don't want to say it because it's so disrespectful, so I'm not going to repeat it, but it's been made to look so bad that you would never want to touch it with a barge pole. So, and it's really, really disgusting that they did this to a culture that gave birth to languages, to civilization, to scriptures, to everything. But it wasn't until much, much later into my yoga studies and everything that I understood why they did that. Because they didn't want anyone to find out what it was all about. They didn't want anyone to discover these ancient techniques and wisdom, because it will empower you, because it will make you into an amazing supernatural human being. So why would they give you that power when they spent their entire existence? Now you might, again, everyone asks me, who's they? All I'm going to say when I say they, go find out who they are. Yeah? Anyway, they who control, they are the 1% of civilization. This is not a conspiracy theory. Please go educate yourself a little bit. You know, whatever I'm saying, if it resonates with you, fair enough, go research it yourself and find out what you can find out. If it doesn't resonate with you, just ignore what I'm saying. Doesn't matter. Because, you know, you're not at that level of vibratory awareness where your mind can accept that kind of information. But if something inside of you had resonated when I said that, please, there is plenty of sources where you can find out what I'm talking about here. All that information was deliberately destroyed. History was deliberately changed. Generations were massacred in order to wipe off the face of the earth this very powerful ancient wisdom, because this ancient wisdom would empower the man, awaken humanity, and empower them to become who they were meant to become, which are divine beings fulfilling their dharma, experiencing this third dimension in all the various beautiful levels that they can. When they have spent at least a few thousand years trying to divide and conquer, and they've created so many distractions, they've created so many different things in order to make sure that humanity is free-falling in an abyss where they could never find themselves and wake up. The last thing they want is for any of us to know that the gates to heaven is found in a land called Hindustan. That's the truth of the matter. So, go research. Because I bet you anything, none of you, or maybe very, very, very few of you would know that Hindustan was an empire that stretched across the whole of Pangaea, and that all other kingdoms, smaller kingdoms, smaller areas, which they had a king, would answer back to the emperor that was residing in Hindustan. And Hindustan ruled for millions of years. So this empire was around for millions of years. Yes, I said millions. That basically means humanity has been around for millions of years. And in fact, the beginning of humanity was way more advanced, to a level where our minds right now cannot even comprehend. So yeah, I just said that. Now, am I right? Am I wrong? Go and find out, because there's no point me explaining something or passing on wisdom unless it resonates with you and you go and research it for yourself. And please, if I'm wrong, do correct me. I only spent years researching this, so, I wish you the best of luck. What can I say? Anyway, I'm digressing. Let's go back into the topic. I started my yoga journey, but I started it in America, or actually Costa Rica, to be fair. And my first Guruji had studied in India in different ashrams for 45 years and has accumulated the knowledge and put them together in like this huge big book where it describes, and he called it multidimensional yoga, where he describes everything about from the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. But if I'm going to be honest, I didn't know then, but I felt it, that there was something missing from that information. It was until I found my second Guruji after my dad, was in his process of passing, that I realized that it was when I found my second Guruji that I understood that the knowledge I was given was a much watered down version of what is yoga and how it should be practiced and applied in daily life. And even though in theory in this book it mentions it, says it, there were no techniques and there were no exploration of actually this information in a correct manner for you to ascend on the ladder of awareness.